Can I thank you for that welcome, folks? Very nice of you from somebody who's been born and bred south of the border, but not too far south. You may pick up some Yorkshire accent hiding in here. There's a wonderful slogan being used in London today, which is yes to children's well-being, no to the Children's Wellbeing in Schools Bill. And if you look at my little placard down there, it actually renames it the Children's Woe and Surveillance Bill. That's what it is. But I don't want to start in England. I want to pay tribute first to Scottish home educators back in 2014. Can any of you Scots people remember what happened in 2014? It was the start of getting it right for every child with the named person scheme bundled in it. And it was the home educators who spotted that, the dangers of that scheme, not just for them, but for every family in Scotland. And they raised an alarm about it. Now, the First Minister here at the time, a certain Nicholas Sturgeon, called it benign legislation. But they realised it was very dangerous to children, to parents and to family life. They got a legal opinion which they took around several organisations, and one of them, the Christian Institute, said, yes, we agree with this, we will fight it with you. And they took the fight all the way to the Supreme Court. And in the ruling where the Scottish Government lost their case, Lady Hale said this is probably the most prominent quote from it. I don't mind repeating it. It says, different upbringings produce different people. The first thing a totalitarian regime tries to do is to get at the children, to distance them from their subversive varied influences of their families and indoctrinate them in their rulers' view of the world. Within limits, families must be left to bring up their children in their own way. Now, if you understand that, as Joshua said a few minutes ago, the Parliament needs to be transparent, but your home needs to be protected from everybody else looking in. You need to be alert. You need to be very alert, because the state wants not just 1 foot, but 2 or 3 pairs of feet inside every family's front door. Now, as has already been mentioned, in England and Wales, there's a little bit in this bill that does apply to Scotland, but it's not the bits I'm talking about today. It's impossible for me to cover everything that's bad about it. So I'm giving you a very limited outline. Where is it? It's been through the House of Commons. It's now in the House of Lords. It went at sprinter speed through the Commons, and it's been rather sluggish in the Lords. But it's got now to report stage. That started last Wednesday. It continues on Monday. It should be through that stage at the beginning of February. The first thing that is a big danger in there is called the consistent identifier for every child from birth. And they're hoping it will be the national health number. And that will mean your health data and everything attached to it will follow these children through life. Now, most MPs and politicians ignored it. They waved it through Parliament until Keir Starmer announced mandatory digital ID for everybody. And everybody suddenly realised this is ID for children. And so that's raised things. So there may be a bit more pushback, but do you know that in June last year, the Health Secretary, West Streeting, announced that very soon, DNA records will be collected from every baby born, certainly in England. And who will be holding those records? Not mum and dad. I must move on, time's going. Now, the big thing that I've been interested in is the children not in school registers, and 10 days ago there was very big changes to that in the name of 38 government amendments. I have to be quick. The first part is they're going to bring in pilot schemes to require permission to deregister a child before they are taken out of school for elective home education. Now, that's already the case in Scotland, but, and I will shout over this lot, folks, but in England, it's the LA, when a parent applies for permission to withdraw a child, must have a meeting, organise a meeting with the parent, the child, whether the child wants to attend or not, and the school. And it doesn't matter what age the child is. So if you put your child in school for 6 months and say this isn't working, the child has got to be interviewed by the state. And there must be a meeting. But on the back of that, they're also introducing near mandatory home inspections. This will apply to every child who is put on the register. Within 15 days, the state must consider where the child lives. And they may request the child's parents to allow them to visit the home of the child where they live. If that request is refused, then it will count against the parents when they come to decide whether the child can be home educated. And they must also look at all the other places where a child is educated. So if they go to a club or a church thing, they can come and inspect those. Can you imagine what's going to be involved? Professor Luke Clements of Leeds University, who works with families who've got disabled children, has come up for a phrase to describe the attitude of social services to those parents. His phrase is a culture of parent-carer blame. And what happens when they do that is social services go into the home, demand to see the children's bedrooms, and looking at the fridges to see what they're being fed. This is going on already. Will it be like that for home-educated children? In time, yes. I'm running out of time. I've still got a lot to do, but I'll press on a little bit. Right. Now, this week, we've had a lot of political action, but one of them has been the growing demand for parents for the state to ban social media for children. One commentator said this was taking agency away from families and would result in a significant narrowing of public square, but expansion of the state. I want to tell them, they said that was the worst they had heard. I want to tell them that the 2022 schools bill, which was a Conservative policy, did more than that for taking away agency. But the present bill, the Children's Wellbeing and Schools Bill, is that bill resurrected on steroids. And it has, in the back of both documents, there is this statement that basically says, I'm not going into it, but there's a statement that says that the state has the right to insist that every child in Britain is taught in a state-supervised school. That's where they're wanting to go. Okay, I'm out of time nearly, give me 2 more minutes. Where's all this coming from? Joshua's told you it's the United Nations Charter on the Rights of the Child, which was sold to the public in my parents' generation as a shield to protect the state from getting involved in citizens' lives. It's now being used as a sword to get in there and to tear families apart. And it is a big driver of the agenda here in Scotland. It was behind the named person scheme. It is there. My last thing is just one comment really about something the Children's Commissioner for Wales said in 2024. How many of you have heard of Children's Commissioners? Do you know when we got them? We got them when we signed up to the United Nations Charter on the Rights of the Child. You have one in Scotland, they're not called that, but they've got a different job title. And behind the charter is a thing, every charter's got general comments. And the general comment behind this, the Children's Commissioner for Wales said, Article 24 of the UNCRC says children have a human right to a healthy and nutritious diet. Would we agree with that? Yes, right? But what does it mean? The general comment behind that article says this: adequate nutrition and growth monitoring in early childhood are particularly important. It then goes on to say school feeding is desirable to ensure all pupils have access to a full meal every day, which can also enhance children's attention for learning and increase school enrolment. You see, the state now, because it doesn't trust parents to give children a square meal a day, says we can't leave it to the parents, we have to feed them ourselves. Cue Bridget Phillipson's free breakfast for every child. She's not trying to help the children, she's trying to tear the children away from the parents. And of course, what did it get? What reception did it get? One trades union leader ridiculed her budget for it. It says what the state is providing is not enough for half a Greggs sausage roll a day. 60 pence is all the state is providing on your children. One phrase from a lady from Scotland called Maggie Mellon. She was involved in the Not the Named Person scheme, and her phrase was, the state makes a lousy parent. It does.